So this film, Khaled, was produced in 2009, is that correct?
Yes.
And obviously it's a multi-strand narrative, it's a melodrama that captures quite significant tensions or in contemporary Egypt. We were talking earlier today, and you said that it really captured Kamila's film, and the screenwriter's film, a mood or a sense of Egypt, a sense of frustration. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you felt about that when you first received the script and when you first started talking about this. It's worth mentioning that this is the first script by this writer, who's also a young writer, so very, very interesting to get that.
Yeah. As I told you earlier, this is one of the movies that's very dear to everybody who worked in it, because when this film came about, it was very interesting. Mariam Naum was walking in. Do you see the last scene in the movie? Actually, is how it all came out. She was walking in that street. It's a very famous street in Cairo, the Kamal Dol Arabiya, the Arab League street, and it's a big boulevard. And this is where usually after big football matches or whatever, people go there and celebrate. It's one of the big boulevards. And she was walking in that street one day when Egypt won the tournament, some tournament, and she saw this huge celebrations. And she said, literally, she said, I felt the energy didn't come from a happy place. She said, I had a weird feeling. I had a feeling that this energy is not really coming from a very happy place. She felt that this is almost like the presto machine that makes, boiled steamed rice or whatever, and it's almost the steam is coming out. It's a vent. People are trying to feel happy when they can to vent out this energy, and somehow she felt this energy is negative. It's not coming from a happy place, and this is how she couldn't sleep that night. And next morning she woke up and she walked in the streets, and going to work, she looked at everybody's faces and she saw people not really happy. Egyptians are usually very happy people and very funny people, and a lot of jokes around, and she said it's not there anymore. That was next morning. She said that's what struck me to write a movie about characters that she saw them in the morning, who are almost on the verge of a nervous breakdown. She used that exact word. And she wanted to write a script about people who are Cairene, living in Cairo, different classes, and how she saw them the night before celebrating, venting this energy. So when she wrote that script, it was so strong and it was so true and so honest that no real artist would read it and feel like this movie has to be made. So we all, Kamila was actually the director. That was her second movie. I worked with her, her second movie with me. It was her third movie in general. And I knew her very well. And Mariam Naum and most of the actors you saw, we all kind of wanted to make this movie, and we went to Gehazi Cinema. Gehazi Cinema is a surprisingly a state-owned producer, but they were very happy to have all this cast, and they said we'll do it. Unfortunately, if you attend any of the producers' talks or like this Q&A after the movie, you probably feel that he's talking about another movie, because he's usually talking about how Egyptians are so connected, and it's a movie about unity and about how Egypt is, and football and sports can bring people together, which is completely not the point, of course. So the movie started with a real sensitivity of a writer, first-time writer, that she gave it to Kamila, the director, and then all of us wanted to do it, and we all just went to Mahmoud Wahalesi, listen, this movie has to be made. And it was very smooth production. Usually it's not with the state-owned production, but it was very smooth. And we were lucky to have Nancy Abdel Fattah, first time film DOP. She used to do other work, but this is her first feature as well, a woman as well. So that was a writer, director, editor, and director of photography women. So it was great to work in this project.
The film, I mean, I actually hadn't seen the film very widely. I mean, I saw it 2010, late 2010. And I'm curious, perhaps why it hasn't been seen widely in Egypt. I don't know if you're able to articulate that. And also, in the time that it has been seen in Egypt, what the reaction has been to the film.
Okay, this film has an interesting life. films are like babies. You basically labor to have them born, and it's true. Films are like that, and once they're born, they have a life of their own. They're not yours anymore. But you struggle to go wherever they are and support them, like me here with a broken knee. So it's true, because you love them, and if you really care about your films or your work, anyone of the whole cast would probably go anywhere to be with them, because it's part of them, of this film, living its own life. This film had an amazing beginning. The producer didn't even imagine that a film like this, any of his films, will go to a film festival, one of the 4 ones, Venice, Cannes, Toronto, or Berlin. The first one we applied for was Venice, and we got it. So he was very happy to be in Venice, although without any experience of film festivals of this producer, he didn't know where to put this film in the competition. So unfortunately, this movie went to the avant-garde competition, which when you see the other movies in the avant-garde, you understand definitely it's completely in the wrong place. You know, great experimental movies, but of black walls for 10 minutes, nothing happening, and then a flower falls. These kind of movies, experimental. So this movie, in the middle, the competition the jury people said, you know what, we have to take it out because this belongs to the main competition. So we never got an award. But being in Venice was good. Onwards, it went to more than 50, 60 film festivals. We got 40 Best Film Award, 4-0. I think it's a record. Somebody has to find out. Nobody knows the exact number. It's amazing. And it was shown theatrically nowhere except Egypt. And that's, I think, is an amazing paradox. And again, goes back to the system we were living in Egypt. It's a system that knows nothing about the world around us. It's a state-owned producer who knows nothing about putting this film on the map. The distributor who bought the rights is someone who never thought any Egyptian movie would do that good and never really worked on it. And there's a court case now between them both, thinking where did the money go, which nobody worked on. Us, like the young generation, probably will tell you in a split second, this is what you should do, and this is how it should have been done. But of course, that was in 2009. 2010, 11, we established a company, distribution company, which distributed Microphone and other films we made. So, in a nutshell, to answer your question, why did this movie not been screened theatrically and publicly more often? It's basically, the answer is the system of Egypt. Egypt was living in a bubble. And all of a sudden, you have a new generation that is capable of doing something that good, and it was not ready. The system was not ready. Mubarak's system was not ready. The whole system was not ready. And then you have the whole 5 years since 2009 till now, and there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 years of a lot of young people making great movies and going to Cannes, Berlin, Toronto, and the big film festivals. So, but they're doing it on their own. They're distributing it on their own. They're trying to make their own films. But it tells you a lot about what this country is going through. There's a new generation capable of doing something really good if they're let. They have the ways to do it, and at the same time you have a system that is so stagnant and so old-fashioned that has no idea to exist in today's world.
As you said, quite unique in that it's a female writer, director, DOP, and editor. And for me, the film actually bears some interesting resonances with Jacobian building, which we're showing tomorrow. It's a multi-strand narrative, it's a melodrama. It talks about different kind of society and class, but for me this film is much more delicate and sensitive, and I wonder, for me personally, I think it's partially because it's an all-female kind of crew. And I was wondering what you felt about that and the role of, I mean, perhaps a difficult question to answer, but the role of women in cinema in Egypt, because it's obviously Hollywood's a male-dominated film industry in terms of the directors, etc. But I'm wondering specifically in the context of Egypt in the Arab world, what you feel about the role of women as filmmakers.
No, it's a great question. We didn't plan it, but it happened. As I told you, when Mariam Naoum wrote this film and first time script, she thought she had no idea if she can get this film to be made, but she always wanted to. When she brought it to Kamla, and me and Kamla and her, and then 2 other actors read it, and we instantly knew there's something very important in this film. it's a very subtle, and you know, cinema is about subtleness, and it's a very subtle moment that the writer captured. It's the last scene, and it's Khaled Chopri's music also understood it perfectly. You see happy people, but it's not really coming from a happy place, and that's how this beautiful music just turn sour in a moment, and you feel that, you know, it might be happy, but it's sad, but it's coming from a place which has a lot of energy, but it's not really happy energy. And I think it's kind of predicted that there is a volcano about to erupt somewhere. So, so we didn't really think about the female crew, but what happened was it just happened. But I'm now looking back, having a revolution happen in that context, thinking about it. There's something about a female energy that is very sensitive, and it's very subtle, that I think a lot of male people in the industry might have just surpassed it. And I think this is why the film came out that way. There's a lot of subtleness, there's a lot of female sensation, there's a lot of subtleness in this film, and this is why I think it worked having a female director, writer, editor, and even director of photography, Nancy. It was her first film, the writer, first film, DOP, director of photography, first. She had also a cameraman with her, Taimur, who was his second or third film as well. So it was all young generation doing this film. Kamala was her third film, I think, and most of us, we did maybe, the actors did maybe 5, 8, 10 films before that film. So in general, the female aspect of that film, I think, helped a lot to keep the subtleness in the script. And that was very crucial to make this film right. You could have easily made that film swing into any of the characters more than the other, or can swing into more of a commercial sense of it. It can easily be a commercial film, but I think they made the right balance. And it's because, I think, of all the female cast, because they all understood the subtleness. And I really think, I'm happy that we ended up doing it that way. We never thought about it. It's midway through the film, somebody said, "Is this a feminist movie?" And we looked, it's like, wait a minute, yeah, we have all these women making the film. But we didn't think about it.
My last question before I open up to you guys is, I guess for you personally, in terms of playing this role, it's not, I mean, the character sensitivity appears in the end, but I mean, you're quite unlikable in the beginning at some point, quite mean, some could say. And I'm just curious how you grappled with that character and developing it, whether there was a process at all involved in that, and what it was like, really.
What maybe a lot of you don't know, but I used to host a TV show in reality before that film, long time ago. And the producer, whom I don't really agree with a lot of his views, obviously. Yeah, he's a kind man, but he is actually the one who actually offered my name for the role, because I did the TV show before, and it is absolutely the reason I would usually reject the role, because you worked as it is. If you're a doctor, then you can act as a doctor. That doesn't make sense to me at all. But he proposed my name because I was a TV host at some point for a few years, and well known, and I had a show pretty much like that. Wasn't that mean? but so this is how he introduced the name. But Kamla, knowing me, I worked with her before in a movie called Maliko Kteba, another really good movie too, but very specific. She actually took that name and she said, "Okay, I'll talk to him." And she came to me and she said, "Mamdouh wants you to do that role." I said, "I'm not going to do it." She said, "Read the script." I said, "Which one?" She said, "It's Mariam." I said, "Are you kidding? You're doing that? Finally, it's working." Yes. So he said yes, and I said, "Okay, but you know very well that he will cause us a lot of pain doing this project, because he had totally misunderstands this film, of course." She said, "Well, let's all work together on this. Let's all do this movie." So it's one of those rare projects where actually everybody in the cast knew what they were doing except the producer. Or maybe he knew, but he didn't want to put this in public. So my problem was, to tell you the truth, as an actor, is to get away completely from me as a TV host and get that out of my memory completely and just recreate another TV host. knowing a little bit of the industry helps, but being part of it is not really helping as an actor, because this is someone else, and everybody's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And obviously his edge is known, his relationship, and his relationship with his girlfriend, with the age difference and whatever, and that is his dilemma. But he's also not happy in his life. He's also not happy doing this job. And obviously at some point when you see the scene, he really, it strikes him. You can see that he did this many times before, but this time it was the time that he thought, what the hell am I doing? Are we really doing the right thing here? So although it came from a very mediocre character, and obviously she's introduced as a mediocre artist. But this moment happens. Even if you're doing this interview with a mediocre artist, you end up thinking, why am I doing this? And am I doing the right thing? Where am I going with this? So this is the moment that he feels, and this is very true to a lot of professionals in Egypt at that time. Everybody thinking, where are we going with this? It's not going anywhere. Where's the dream? And that is the word that we heard a lot during Mubarak's time. Where is the dream? You know, we had Nasser's with the Arab dream, the Arab unity dream, and then we have Sadat, the peace dream. Then Mubarak, no dream. It's a nightmare. But we nightmares take time until you wake up. So thank God that we woke up. Watching a movie, it's called 18 Days. Because it's a collection of short films, and I think there are 10 short films, and they're made by different directors. But pay attention to who is the director, and some of them are made by older generations, and some of them by young generations. Some of them people who were in Tahrir Square during the revolution, some of them not. And you can tell instantly from the short films who did this and who did that. And it shows you that yes, there is of course a generation gap. And it's obvious, but it was obvious even before the revolution if you live in Egypt. We lived in Egypt in many generations that were stagnant, not being able to have any really chance to really have any say in the future of the country. My generation, the younger generations, and even generations above me. But then you have the directors like Sharif Arafa and all the directors doing short films about the revolution, which were more theatrical, more like an outside viewer. You can tell from their short films. It tells you, yes, we do have a generation gap. That is part of why the revolution happened. But it's not really the generation gap. It's more of the stagnation of the whole country during 30 years of nothing happens. It's like a movie. There is a kind of genre we say it's a nothing happens movie. But in these movies, you better have a really good actors and really good theme to get the audience to live through that movie for the entire length of the movie. So it was a nothing happens movie during Mubarak's time. When the revolution erupted, many of us thought it won't last, but we'll still go ahead and demonstrate. But then something happened. The only ingredient that was missing for a revolution to continue was hope. With Mubarak, we had no hope. Everybody was really down, negative, that nothing will happen. But then we had Baradei. Dr. Baradei was the only catalyst that gave hope to younger generations, said, Mubarak's regime is not good enough for Egypt. Egypt deserves better. Egypt is not a poor country. If you count the income and the people, you should be much better in a much better state. That gave hope to people. Little by little, that little hope was just enough, the catalyst for the equation of a revolution to erupt. And the 18 days happened, and then the revolution happened, and then they're on 2 years now later, a year and a half later, we have a new president elected and so on. And a lot of people now are pessimistic, thinking, oh, look at the Islamists basically stole the revolution. I disagree. I'm very hopeful. I think the basic change, the major change, is not removing Mubarak, is not having an elected parliament or president. The basic major change was that the people now in Egypt changed. No one in Egypt is weak enough to be told to live with it or take it and not stand up for his right. No one is strong enough to tell you to do what you're supposed to do and not stand up and tell anybody else, you know, you're wrong. And this is why we have a lot of demonstrations and all the
Rights.
protests for rights. Nobody will let his rights taken away from him. And that's the big change. And that's why nobody anywhere in the world is reading the scene right. The change is fundamental, and it already happened. And it didn't happen up in the removing of the president or the government or whatever. It happened in the people. The hope of the Egyptian people came back. Every Egyptian, now you talk to in Egypt, he said, I feel now this country belongs to me. Before that, I didn't feel that. And this is the fundamental change that will stay for generations to come, that will make anybody in the government in Egypt, no way that we have another Mubarak or another dictatorship, and no one will ever take your rights away from you.
Can I ask a leading question from that? Sorry to interrupt. This for me raises a really interesting question about the role of cultural producers, filmmakers and actors, etc., who also moonlight or have other lives activists, and whether you think it's problematic that this kind of tension, because what I find now that's kind of curious is you've got a couple of film funds that started after the uprisings, geared towards filmmakers who produce films specifically about these uprisings. You've got, for example, people always ask me about, when I'm going on a TV program, instead of asking me about the cinema as the art form, they're asking me about my political views. And you and I discussed this as well today. You were on a program thinking you were going to promote the festival, your film, and actually you never got asked about the film, you only got asked about the political situation.
BBC this morning.
Yeah, political situation in Syria. I mean, didn't even mention the festival. So I'm curious about this tension and what do you think about that? And what, I guess, is a strategy to avoid that and to return to the art form as opposed to the purely politicized?
Well, I understand, of course. I mean, this is a catatonic change that happened in the Middle East, and it will affect everybody for quite some time to come. A lot of governments, let alone people, are struggling to understand it. But trust me, this is the best understanding of this is what I just said, and this is what I've been trying to tell people everywhere. The change happens already, and it's the people, not the governments. Everything that's happening in the governments now is not it. The fundamental change is that people now have hope, and even if they feel deprived of the rights, they still have hope, and they know that now, with a president of 18 days, changing a president, now I can stand up in the street even for days to come until I get my right back. And that's beautiful, I think. I think that's the healthiest attitude to have in any country, because you know that you should and you would and you must keep fighting until you get your rights, or whatever your aspirations are. So, coming back to you, of course, all over the world are now politicizing everything in Egypt or the Arab world, and it makes a lot of sense. But we're sick of it. Egyptians are sick of it. You know, my porter comes out in the morning and says, Tantawi is gone, and we talk for hours, fine. But I don't want to talk about that every single day, everywhere I go in the whole planet. It's becoming crazy.
So just to talk back about the movie.
Yes.
In your opinion, I've lived most of my life outside Egypt. So in your opinion, does the movie reflects the image of the true society in Egypt?
Which one?
This movie.
What is it?
It's a slice. And you can never say that it's complete, of course. Society is big. But it's a nice slice. I think Mariam Naoum did a good job to... we're talking about Cairo for sure. So it's a slice of the Cairenes living in Cairo today. The guy who cleans your car, the divorced poor woman with raising her kid who works as a hairdresser, who's sexually deprived because she wants to raise up a kid, the lonesome guy who's basically harassing women in public transportation, the TV presenter who's well off but not happy, having drinking and drugs problems, the Coptic woman who wants to get divorced. So it's a slice of Cairo. It's a slice of people who live in Cairo. It's a film about Cairo, basically. And it's pretty much accurate, I have to say, about each and different character in the film. In
And it's
different
quite
parts.
grim. Right? It's a grim slice of Cairo.
But this is, I mean,
I lived in Cairo.
Yeah.
And I have very good memories.
of course,
Cairo
of course,
as
of
well.
course, yeah.
So I found
Yeah, we get accused a lot of being very negative and down. But think again about this movie is about one day when people got completely crazy and happy, but then the energy is coming from a sad place. You obviously didn't see a lot of the happy Cairo, but this is not a film about happy Cairo. This is a film about a Cairo that on top of a volcano that's about to erupt. Not knowing that there will be a revolution. We didn't know, and we didn't even expect it.
I suppose what you're saying is that with something that's grim, you create an opening for a discussion that might lead to something that's hopeful, right?
Well, every time I saw this movie, I end up with a what's the name in English? Tranquil feeling. And then at the same time, I have a little smile that comes back, seeps into my face. It's almost like you're right, you nailed it. Something is right. And I think when you nail something that accurate and that subtle, it's you basically hold the thread for the solution. And I think that was a very early indication of, wait a minute, something is wrong. This society is on top of a volcano. And that was very early, 2009. And that's why there's a smile that comes back at the end. Especially now, after the revolution, you see, my God, there's a very famous quote of a friend of mine that I use a lot. She said, the artists always knew. We didn't really know, but if you look in the arts before any big revolutions, you'll find a lot of artists in major revolutions all over the world predicting something is going to happen. We didn't know, but we felt there's something to be said here, something to be documented here. So in a way, I believe that, yeah, the artists somehow actually predict. This friend I'm talking about works in the US used to be an ex-ambassador, and she's now a professor. And actually they're thinking of maybe analyzing what could happen in the future politically and you know, in countries, looking at the arts from that country, looking at the arts from that region. And it makes a lot of sense to me, because now looking at this film, yeah, and microphone as well, the other thing.
We have room for one more meaty question if anyone's burning with one. Is anyone? Yeah.
I have a
Or
comment.
oh, sorry, it's Lydia first. So you haven't asked one yet.
What's your next film about?
Okay, I started a film right up. I was involved in the revolution a lot, so I was in the 18 days in the Tahrir Square with a lot of filmmakers. Surprisingly, my last film, Microphone, the director was supposed to go to the demonstrations and meet us in the premiere, and the premiere was on the 25th of Jan, which is the day it erupted. So the director never made it back to the theater, and we came with a film crew out of the premiere to find him and locate him. And I started doing a little documentary called Tahrir al-Tahrir, Liberating Liberation Square, basically trying to go find my director and get him back to the premiere. But we ended up, of course, with 18 days doing that. And that was the beginning of the film. And then we ended up doing a documentary about the whole liberating the idea of liberation and now the revolution. And then it kept going on and on until now. Unfortunately, that footage, every time we get an editor to finish it, breaks down in the middle and thinks, and you know what, I can't tell this story because it's still unfolding.
Yeah.
So we ended up not finishing the project. But I have right now another project born in the midst of the revolution, but not about the revolution. And I think it's good. It's healthy to put it aside a little bit.
Yes.
It's so big now to understand, to grasp it. I'm doing a film about young actors and the relationship with the roles of young people in Tahrir Square who are doing monologues based on true stories of people who died or got hit or lost an eye or something in the middle of the revolution, and they're acting their roles. So it's one step away, but at the same time you're telling the story. But how these stories affect the actors and how the actors affect the relatives when they see it. And they played it, it's a play, they played it in Tahrir Square. So the movie is actually is the back scene of all that, and how actors or human beings choose their characters. And that's my new movie. It's called One Hand Eid Wahda.
Right, so that's all we have time for, but Khaled will be around in the foyer for a little bit if you have burning questions that you weren't able to ask. But I want to take this chance to say thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.